A few weeks ago I had the pleasure of hosting Dean from Dean's Fishroom. A lot of you probably know Dean from Aquarium Co-op. He does the live streams with Corey on occasion. You've seen his fish room from various videos. I made a video a couple months back, I guess, where it's the one with the ancient fish, a lungfish that Dean has. Anyway, so Dean came down to San Francisco, California. He was the speaker at the Aquarium Society, so he spoke both in the San Francisco Club as well as the Sacramento Club. So anyway, I picked up Dean from the airport. We came back to my house, hung out here for a while, and then went to the public aquarium. Now, I didn't get any footage of Dean here in the fish room, and I wish I did because he couldn't stop taking pictures of the mudskippers right behind me. He loved these things. He kept talking about it. In fact, in a text message a few days ago, he was mentioning the mudskippers again. So anyway, we did go to the public aquarium. I did want to take him there and show him some fish that maybe he hasn't seen before, or also see fish that he hasn't seen in that type of environment. So he really did enjoy his time there. And then we went up to Napa. We went to Backyard Aquatics. You've seen their fish room before from various channels, mine, Aquarium Co-op, etc. So anyway, we went and saw Carlos and Diane at their fish room, and Dean had a great time there as well. So anyway, I'm going to stop talking and take you right to the footage. Here Dean is checking out some of the saltwater fish, really big exhibit. And these are some of the biggest African cichlids that I've ever seen in captivity. I've talked about these before, and Dean is checking out some Africans. This is probably my favorite part of the aquarium, the public aquarium, the giant Arapaima. And this is a little tunnel that you can actually walk into and have the fish swim right over you. Here we have some four-eyed fish. I forgot the scientific name, but basically they kind of stay at the surface of the water and their eyes go above and below at the same time. So it's kind of like having a periscope and then being able to see in front of you at the same time. So very unique. What I was trying to do is just, you know, I've been here so many times. It's literally like 5 minutes from my house. So I come here all the time, but I wanted to kind of observe other people. So I wanted to see how Dean took in this aquarium, and he really enjoyed it. He was taking photos and video the entire time he was there. Really fun. Here we can see one of the eels. It's a moray eel, I believe, and they have a very large exhibit. This tank has some beautiful red plants. So they have freshwater and saltwater displays, and this was one of their freshwater displays that I like. Here's another one. Dean was actually talking to me about contacting the public aquarium and offering some of my shell dwellers to them, because this tank is definitely in need of some shell dwellers. Right now they just have those calvus in there. So it is a beautiful tank. I've filled it before with different fish in there before, but right now it's just a bunch of Malaysian trumpet snails and those calvus. This is the Philippine reef. Huge. This doesn't really show you how large it is. It's giant. This is a fish that actually Dean has at his house. So if you remember that video that I made, and I'll put a link up here, he has a lungfish. His lungfish is maybe about 2 feet long or so, right around there. This one's much, much larger, giant lungfish, but Dean was pretty amazed when he saw this display and saw these lungfish just hanging out. Now, one of the reasons that I'm guessing you clicked on this video is you wanted to see the Asian Arowana. Now, I showed them to you before, and I'm going to show them to you again. So this is actually inside a cafeteria. We were trying to determine how large this tank is. It's maybe 40 feet long or something like that. So it's a very, very large aquarium. It's in the cafeteria. You can see the reflection. Sorry for the glare. Obviously, we can't go in and turn the lights off in the cafeteria. But anyway, they have 2 Asian Arowana in there. This one is kind of the golden color. I think it's like a crossback or something. And then there's one that has some more red in it. But anyway, we kept kind of moving tables as space became open. We would get up and sit closer and closer. here you can see that's the one that has the red in it, but beautiful. These are obviously, they're not legal in the United States, but I'm sure that they were confiscated and put here on display. Now, this was the conclusion of our trip, and then we went back home. Dean chilled out a little bit in front of my tanks and rested.
There was the local people that grow, that have like a vegetable, grow vegetables and stuff. They're saying all their stuff is like 4 weeks behind. So I can see the senias.
You know what I have not seen in California? Rice fish.
I have the
have
rice fish down there.
Oh, so I knew they'd have to be out here then. Yeah.
So
well, as you can see, we are now not at the public aquarium, and we're not at my house. We are actually in Napa, California, at the home of Carlos and Diane from Backyard Aquatics. So they were gracious enough to allow us to come visit and check out all of their tanks. Now, I recently made a video showcasing this fish room when I got my Indian mudskippers, and I'll put a link up here somewhere. But anyway, they have amazing tanks. I think they have over 100 tanks now, because they've got the indoor and the outdoor, hence the name Backyard. So they have a detached garage. They turned it into a fish room, and then they have their backyard that they also have converted into an area, and that was that first scene that you saw there when we were outside. They do a lot of breeding here. Some of their rams that they've bred. They're really into catfish and corridoras and things like that. They do have some really interesting fish, some fish that you don't often see, some rare fish, some expensive fish that we'll see as we move along here. So the last frame you saw a pipefish. We'll see some more pipefish here shortly. Here are some of the corridoras that they have, and they do a lot of breeding. So this is where I like to buy my corridoras. This is a beautiful Apisto. I kept coming back to this tank and staring at this fish. I really like it. I kind of want one. Dean was also admiring the color patterns on this fish as well, specifically the chin bar there. You can see it's the I can't pronounce that, but anyway, here are some more of the pipefish, and they've actually spawned these. So the pipefish are in the same family as like a seahorse. These happen to live in fresh water, and what will happen is, what I've learned is that the fish will spawn, but the fry, the baby fish, actually need to be taken out via the current to the ocean and be in salt water. So they don't do well in captivity as far as breeding, unless you were to transfer them to salt water or something. They do have a lot of plecos. They've bred plecos before, or they've continued to breed plecos, but I've purchased some of their plecos before in the past. And they do have some really amazing whiptails. I believe that these ones here are the Colombians, and then they have some other ones. These ones are also very, very, very expensive, I will say. I know that they have 8, and they're really taking care of them, making sure that they all survive. I believe they've had these for about a month or so now.
I've had them for about a month ago. Oh, nice. They're real susceptible to like fungal infections, bacterial, and so bacterial and fungal.
That's just pool filter sand, right?
It's not even pool filter sand. It's actually just
play sand.
Play sand, like a play sand. Yeah.
There they go.
That's a nice sand.
Oh, that's
really
so
light,
cool.
really fluffy.
Yeah. They're acting like a skate
flounder.
or a
yeah. Like I fed them already this morning, but when the first time they feed.
As I said earlier in the video, it's really cool when you're hanging out with people that are really into the hobby. And obviously, Dean, Carlos, Diane, they're very knowledgeable about what they do. And I always enjoy, being in those environments and learning and picking up tips. Every time I visit someone in their fish room or, learn about their breeding program, I always learn something new. And here's the mudskippers. These are the Indian mudskippers, the ones that I have. So Carlos imported them or got them, and he still has them sitting in this container for a few months. And I know that he has some plans on building a display tank for them. He actually has the tank already. He has the design. He just needs to put it together and get that going. This is a very unique fish. Obviously, you can tell by the shape of the tail, the type of whiptail it is, but really interesting.
They get so active
They
that
do
they
get very
jump around, and so we would find them like 3 tanks over, 3 tanks down, and like there's people actually like made comments about that. It's like, oh, there's no way the fish can do that.
What I also really enjoyed during this visit is I've been to this fish room 3 or 4 times already. I've visited a few times, but this was Dean's first time, so a lot of the time I wasn't really looking at the tanks or filming. I was watching him watch the tanks, and he was really interested in a lot of what they had going on. These are some really interesting corridors that kind of look like orcas, which is what Diane said. And these are some of her female cats. I forgot the species, but she's trying to get these to spawn, but they haven't spawned so far. Like I said, lots of corridors. Every tank that has corridors has some type of, sand or very fine gravel for them to sift through, and that just helps to, continue to allow them to have their normal eating and foraging behavior. Another pleco. There's one there on the right too in the pleco cave. Now these are some really interesting puffers, and I've shared these puffers in previous videos. I think they're down. I think they only have 1 female in the bunch now. I think they had a couple more previously, but they weren't strong enough. But there are multiple of these puffers in this tank, and the funniest thing, and you might see a clip here as we fade on or go on to the next slide, but there's actually some shrimp that live in here, and the puffers don't bother them, so they eat other things, and worms and mosquito larvae and snails, but they leave this little shrimp. There it is. They leave that little guy alone. There's some adult brine shrimp, so there's some leftover brine shrimp from his hatchery. I just wanted to capture that real quick and show you what they look like.
It's always fun to have fish people to hang out with. I'm sure that for those of you watching, if you have any friends or people that you interact with at clubs, etc., that are into fish like you are, it is really enjoyable. I learn a lot. It's fun to talk about different fish, things that we like, things that we don't like. So anyway, had a great time, and I will say that if you guys have a fish club, Dean would be a great speaker to invite to speak at your club. So anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.